You know, it's at times like this, spoilers by the way for One Piece. It's at times like this that I wonder what it must be like to be like a regular civilian in that world. You know what I mean? Like you're nobody in particular. You just live on some random farm in the east. You don't even run a bakery. That's how insignificant you are. You run a goat farm. Like that's what you do. You live in the East Blue and you have a goat farm, and once a week you bring some goat's milk and goat cheese to the townsfolk and you sell it, and then you go back to your goat farm, okay? What it must be like for that person to open up the newspaper and read headlines like, War of the Best at Marineford! Whitebeard, the greatest pirate ever, killed in cold blood, gunned down by the Blackbeard pirates! Porcus D. Ace ran through by a Kainu! Pictures on pages 2 through 7, you know, and then like, oh my god, that's incredible, what's going on in the world, right? And by the way, while we're on the subject of that really quick, I just realized something and I just want to bring this up. Okay, so remember way back at the beginning of One Piece in the East when it was talked about like devil fruits were like not a lot of people in the Four Blues really know a lot about devil fruits because like there's just not a lot of people that have those powers, but in the newspaper in the world they're talking about like these giant battles with like, you know, Whitebeard summons an earthquake. It'd be like, isn't that confirmation right there that devil fruits exist? The fact that the major military organization in this world, the Marines, their strongest fighters, the admirals, all have supernatural abilities. So every civilian that has a newspaper subscription in the One Piece world should be fully aware that devil fruit powers exist. And if they don't, they must just assume, like when that goat farmer opens up the newspaper and he sees the picture of Aki Inu, like, you know, stabbing Ace right through the chest with magma, it'd be like, oh my god, the admirals can use magic. You know, like, so that's an interesting little part about the story you just realized, right? But one of the most recent headlines now is that goat farmer opens up his newspaper in the morning, he has his cup of coffee, and he's like, all right, let's see what's going on in the world. What? Both of the emperors were taken out, and now the new emperors are this Straw Hat Luffy kid and a clown? What's going on in the world right now? That he spits out his coffee, and all the goats are just like, and he's like, I don't know, Percival, I don't know what's going to happen. Percival's the name of the goat. Anyway, yeah, it must be pretty wild to live in that world, right? Okay, so this is going to be a video on the New World Order. See what I did there? Because it's a new order because there's new Yonko, but it's also in the new world where most of this stuff is happening. So do you see the play on, you know, there's also some My Hero Academia inspiration in there too with a character that hasn't shown up yet in the anime, but you know what I mean. You see where I'm going with that, okay? All right, I'm very proud of that title. Okay, so here's something that's interesting. We have the Straw Hats and we have the Buggy Pirates that are now members of the Emperors, okay? So now let's just look at the way that it would normally shake down in terms of just bounties, okay? Now, the way that it was considering the bounties of like Shanks and Blackbeard before this, the order would now go Shanks at the very top, with a bounty of 4,048,900,000. I wrote them all down, but yes, I got that one right. Okay. So Shanks would be at the top right now because Big Mom and Kaido did have higher bounties than Shanks, but they're now gone or in a magma pool or doing whatever they're doing, so they're out of the picture for the moment, okay? So Shanks would have the highest bounty of the Emperors. Then directly after him would be Luffy with a new bounty of 3 billion. Out of all of the Yonko that we were, you know, shown in the last chapter, you know, it's now Shanks, Blackbeard, Buggy, and Luffy. The only one that we know for certain what their current bounty is Luffy at 3 billion. All right, so we'll get back to that in a second. But then it would go 3 billion for Luffy, and then let's assuming Blackbeard's bounty is the same, which I always forget Blackbeard's. It's 2,247,600,000, and then after that, we don't know because Buggy's original bounty back in the East was 15 million. And then when he became a warlord, it was frozen at 15 million. But now that he's an emperor, obviously Buggy's bounty would not be 15 million anymore, okay? In fact, well,
I hesitate to say he would have the single largest bounty increase out of all of the pirates in One Piece, just because Blackbeard's bounty, do you remember? Here's a little bit of a One Piece quiz for you. What was Blackbeard's bounty before he became an emperor? Yeah, guess what? It was zero. It was zero. It was nothing.
Yeah, he was literally able to be a member of Whitebeard's crew for decades and decades and be so unremarkable and manage to hide from the press for so long that he was never even issued a bounty while he was on Whitebeard's crew. You know, there's a lot of reasons why Blackbeard is terrifying, and that might seem like a weird reason to fear him, but I feel like that's kind of a big deal. You are a member of a Yonko crew, and it's not like, I mean, granted, you're not a commander. Granted, you're not like one of the heavy hitters because he specifically tried to avoid that, but you've been on this crew since you were like 12. Right? This is like 30-something years getting close to that Blackbeard was a member of Whitebeard's crew, and he was so unremarkable. He was the one that gave Shanks his scar, for God's sake, and he was never issued a bounty. He was able to avoid detection for that long. That is truly remarkable. That's one of the greatest feats of Blackbeard, honestly, and that is going to play a major role later. You know, you watch, you see what happens, right? Well, anyway, yeah, so Blackbeard's bounty was originally 0, so when he became a warlord, it was technically frozen at 0, and then when he became an emperor, it probably shot through the roof, okay? So something similar with Buggy. Let's just assume it's the lowest right now. Even at the lowest, it would still probably have to be at least 2 billion, okay? So this is the order we have. However, it's not going to be this. I am under the impression that every single member of the Emperors, Shanks, Blackbeard, Luffy, and Buggy, all received a huge bounty increase, okay, from what they were doing while Wano was going on, okay? I think Shanks' bounty is higher than it was, and I think Blackbeard's bounty is higher than it was. Luffy's, as we know, at 3 billion, the only one we know for sure. Buggy's bounty, I'm telling you right now, I think it would only make sense if he had the lowest or the highest, and I don't think it's going to be the lowest, so, you know what I mean? We still don't know the circumstances behind how he became an emperor, like what exactly happened to make the world at large decide, this clown, man, he's our guy. He's gonna be the new emperor to stand up there with the best of them, okay? It might also have something to do with Shanks manipulating things. You know, I made a whole video about that. But I think it would be just the most fun if Buggy's bounty was the highest, okay? I also think for certain Blackbeard's is higher. I think Blackbeard he did do something. We don't know exactly what, but, you know, when the warlords were all about to be brought in by the Marines, Blackbeard was like, all right, men, let's shove off. I'm gonna get to them before the Marines do. Zay-ha-ha-ha-ha! So we don't exactly know what Blackbeard was attempting to do. The implication at the time was like it was something involving the warlords or the former warlords, maybe trying to recruit them into his own ship, but it might have been something like, you know, while the Marines are out there stretched thin bringing in the warlords, we can go do this other thing. Zay-ha-ha! So I think Blackbeard has been very active while Wano's been going on, so I think his bounty is definitely higher, okay? Actually, you know what? I go back on this a little bit. The one emperor where I can see their bounty staying the same is Shanks. Now, Shanks' bounty might have very well increased because he did meet with the Gorosei at the Reverie. Maybe something he said to them, maybe it freaked them out, maybe they decided to raise his bounty even more. But out of all of the emperors, if one of their bounties stayed the same since the last time we were aware of it, I would say Shanks is the most likely there, okay? So, with that being said now, the new ranking might actually be, let's just go ahead with Buggy at the highest, because that would be hilarious. Buggy has the highest bounty of, let's say, I don't know, not 5 billion, that would be too high even for Buggy, but like more than Shanks. So let's say like 4.5 billion. That would still be less than Kaido's, a little bit more than Big Mom's, but more than Shanks. So let's say Buggy is at the top, like somewhere around 4.5 billion. You could also work in, because Oda likes to do the number puns, you could also work in like a number gag into Buggy's new bounty, which would be like Buggy or something like that, like the numbers, you know, so you can go and, you know, figure out exactly what that would be. But let's say it's around 4.5 billion or something like that. Then let's assume Shanks' bounty stays the same, so 4 billion, 48 million, 900,000. And then, you know, Luffy's at 3 billion. So where would Blackbeard be placed? I I think, honestly, considering Luffy just became a member of the Emperors, wouldn't it be fascinating if Luffy's bounty was now the new low of the Yonko to sort of represent that he's the new guy and he has to still work his way up? Like, he's very, very close to becoming the king of the pirates, and he's now an official member of the Emperors, but he's still just the new guy. You know what I mean? Like, Luffy is still brand new to this. He still has a ladder he needs to climb, and he still needs to get through Blackbeard and Shanks and Captain Buggy himself if he wants to even attempt to become, you know, the king of the pirates and follow in Roger's legacy, okay? So I think that would actually make a lot of sense if the new paradigm was Luffy at 3 billion as the lowest bounty out of the Emperors, and then we have, you know, let's say Blackbeard gets bumped up to like 3.8 billion or something like that, and then Shanks stays where he is, and then Buggy's at the highest just for comedic effect, okay? That being the new paradigm, I would be okay with that. I guess you could also say if you're just tired of the Buggy jokes, Buggy would be on the bottom with like maybe 2 billion exactly or something like that, but I don't know about that. I have this feeling that Buggy's bounty is going to be absurd, okay? And there's going to be a whole reason for it. There's going to be a purpose behind it, but I just have this feeling that Buggy's going to be the new Kaido of the seas. You know, the goat farmer opens it up and he's just like, "Oh my god, the new greatest Yonko ever is Captain Buggy! Meredith, lock the house! Bring in the goats! We need to protect ourselves! Grab my shotgun, woman!" You know, like, it's going to be the terrifying new sea. It's going to be Buggy, okay? Absolutely, right? Okay, now let's talk about Yonko Commanders. That's a fun discussion point, okay? I saw a thing the other day on Facebook where somebody put up a picture of Kabaji. You remember Kabaji, right? And there was the caption of like, "This guy is now a Yonko Commander," which I feel like that is pretty much irrefutable. Kabaji was one of the original members. He was the second mate of the Buggy Pirates. Yeah, he is a Yonko commander. He is the queen to Buggy's Kaido, right? He is the smoothie to Big Mom's sweet commanders, so to speak, right? Absolutely. There's no other way to look at it, okay? So let's talk about Yonko commanders a little bit here. So every Yonko crew seems to do this their own way. With Whitebeard, for instance, he technically had like 16 commanders, so 16 people that were directly under him, but they all overall were not like as powerful as like Katakuri. You know, like Marco was pretty strong. Ace, of course, was very strong. Odin back when he was a member. Vista, Jozu, pretty much the 5 main commanders, 1 to 5 divisions were pretty strong, okay? After that, you start getting a little bit weaker. You know, you got like Curiel, who was like the Vietnam War vet, all the way down to like Fossa, who was just a dude with a biker jacket that had a sword that he could light on fire. I mean, Fossa was cool, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't exactly like, you know, Katakuri King level, you know what I mean, right? Absolutely. So that's the way Whitebeard did it. But then you also have somebody like Big Mom, who's like, okay, Big Mom's just decided like, okay, we're gonna have 3 sweet commanders, all right? Technically there used to be 4, but then Snack was defeated by Arouge, and so he had his position removed. Cracker was also defeated by Luffy, so maybe Cracker is no longer a sweet commander, and Katakuri was also defeated by Luffy, so maybe Katakuri is no longer a sweet commander, and Big Mom might be dead right now, so the whole crew might not even be active at this moment, right? But if they are still active, then Smoothie, I guess, would be the only one that would still technically, for certain, be a sweet commander, okay? So we have 3 of the sweet commanders that we had, you know, during the Whole Cake Island arc. We had Katakuri, who was the strongest. Then we had Smoothie, who was the second strongest. And then we had Cracker, who was the weakest. And then Snack, who was the 4th strongest, who was no longer a commander, okay? So there's just interesting there. Just between Big Mom's crew and Whitebeard's crew, you could see the difference in number. Also with Kaido, also had 3, the All-Stars, okay? The 3 disasters or calamities or whatever you wanted to call them. You had King, Queen, and Jack, okay? So now, how's it going to work with Buggy's crew and the Straw Hat crew? Well, honestly, I could see it working very simply for the Straw Hat crew. You might say that, like, oh, well, it's going to be like the Monster Trio. Now that Luffy is an emperor proper, we're going to have Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei be like the three, like the sweet commanders of the Straw Hats, so to speak. Like, they are the commanders, right? I guess you could also throw Yamato in there if Yamato does, in fact, join the Straw Hats officially. So you could throw, Yamato in there, too. So those are, like, the strongest members of the crew. But also, you got to remember the way that, like, Shanks's crew is set up, where Shanks's crew is not very large. There's only a few dozen members of the Red Hair crew, and all of these members are commanders of the crew. So it isn't just Shanks, Lucky Roo, Ben Beckman, and Yasop. You also have all these other dudes, plus a monkey. The monkey is named Monster. I remember that. There was one dude named Lime Juice. Yeah, there's a bunch of like other members. We know their names now, but here they all are. These are all the commanders, so to speak, of the Red Hair crew. And I would imagine it's all based off the total size of the crew. Because Big Mom's crew and Kaido's crew, they weren't even crews at that point. They were like enterprises, okay? They were like entire corporations, or like they were huge, right? Okay? They had hundreds, if not thousands of people working under them in various roles, okay? So it would make sense with that many people working under them, they would want to have like a hierarchy of like the best of the best. Just here are the 3 members that are the strongest, or here are the 5 members that are the strongest, okay? Shanks's crew, comparatively smaller than that, so his entourage, I guess, or like his strongest officers or whatever, it would make sense there'd be more of them in that case, okay? Because the crew's overall size is smaller, but Shanks prizes quality rather than quantity, okay? It was also mentioned by Brand New, who's the Marines intelligence officer, that Shanks's officers have the highest average bounty out of all of the emperors, okay? So that gives you the idea of how Shanks builds up his crew. Then we have Blackbeard's crew. Now remember, Blackbeard's crew is still, I mean, he has a lot of new power because of like the Hachinosu and everything. There's a lot of pirates that are working under him now, but I don't think it's even close to the level of like Kaido's Beast Pirates or Big Mom's crew, okay? It's like on a smaller level than that, but there are a lot of people working for him, okay? So his commanders are all the 10 Titanic captains. So you got Blackbeard himself, but then you also have, of course, the original crew like Jesus Burgess, Lafitte, Doc Q, Van Auger, and then Shiryu later, and then also you have Vasco Shot and San Juan Wolf and Katarina Devon and Alvaro Pizarro, the members that they got out of Impel Down. So you have Blackbeard as the admiral, and then you have the 10 Titanic captains that work as his commanders, okay? And we still don't know the 10th one, so there's still 10, but there's only 9 that we know of so far, right? So that's the way he does it. And with Buggy, we have his initial crew, which consisted of Alvida, Moji, Richie, Kabaji, as well as Galdino, Mr. 3 now, okay? So I would say those guys and Alvida are the members that are making up Buggy's commanders, okay? And so everybody else is just like maybe like some people they got from the Buggy's delivery. I'm sure some people stayed behind on Kalibali to sort of work as a distraction, but then like Buggy and his core crew managed to escape, you know what I mean? So yeah, Kabaji is a Yonko commander now. Same thing with Moji, although he put some pounds on since the last time we've seen him. Alvida is a Yonko commander, and Mr. 3 is also a Yonko commander. One Piece is getting weird. I could have said that like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but no. One Piece is getting weird, ladies and gentlemen, to the point where Mr. 3, the guy with the giant 3 hairdo, is now a Yonko commander. Weird. Okay, and then you have the Straw Hats. Now, like I said, maybe just the Monster Trio, but honestly, if we're going along with the same logic as Shanks's crew and Blackbeard's crew, Luffy has the smallest Emperor crew that's ever existed, okay? I imagine there still are a lot more members of Buggy's crew, so we don't know for certain, but the Straw Hat crew, even if you want to include Yamato in this, numbers only 11. 11 members, that's it. I mean, they have the Grand Fleet too, which might be grouped in there, but that's sort of like, Whitebeard's allied crew. They weren't like the A&O pirates, or, they weren't like members of Whitebeard's crew, they were just allies, you know what I mean? like the DeClavin brothers and stuff like that. So that they don't count, okay? Just in terms of an Emperor crew and an Emperor crew alone with no allies thrown in the midst. There it is. Midst, M-I-D-S-T. There you go. I know words. But just going by that, the Straw Hats, that's it. Just 11 members and a sunflower boat. That's it, okay? I guess maybe if you want to stretch the numbers, you could throw Zeus in there because he lives inside of Nami's rod, okay? That's, I guess if you want to go that far with it, maybe 12 members, okay? Maybe 13 if you want to throw Vivi in there. But the point is, it's a very, very select group. So you know what? Yeah, it is very clear that Sanji, Zoro, Jinbei, and Yamato are going to be the major fighters in terms of just physical power, are the strongest members of the Straw Hat crew under Luffy. But I think overall, all of the members of the Straw Hats are going to be considered Yonko Commanders now. At least that might be the way that Morgan spins it in the newspaper and might reflect in their new bounties, okay? Because it's like, they get the newspaper and they're like, okay, Luffy's a new emperor, so therefore, who are the commanders that work under him? It's like, well, Luffy only has like 11 members on his crew. That's it. So, like, you know, Blackbeard probably has a few hundred, Shanks has at least a few dozen, and then Kaido and Big Mom were in the thousands. Whitebeard probably also had a few hundred on his crew, maybe like 1,000 even, something like that, if you want to say that. But it's like, Luffy is like, is an aberration here. He's a little bit of an outlier, where it's just like, okay, well, I guess we raise all of their bounties a decent amount because they're all technically Yonko Commanders because his crew is so damn small and they've caused this much trouble. So, screw it. Nami, you're now a Yonko Commander. Chopper, you're now a Yonko Commander. Maybe we can get a damn good bounty on you for this point. God Usopp is now a Yonko Commander, and you know he's gonna milk that for every bit that it's worth, okay? You know? They might even give them fancy names or something. Like, you know, you have like the 10 Titanic captains of Blackbeard's crew. What would the titles be for the Straw Hats outside of their own like titles they already have? Like Usopp is God Usopp. I don't know. You know, Commander of the Fourth Fleet. You know, I don't know, something like that. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's the way it's going to be at least looked at by the regular citizens in the One Piece world. They're going to look at that and be like, okay, Luffy was able to become an emperor with a crew of like less than a dozen people. This guy is terrifying, and every single member of his crew should also be equally terrifying. You know, I think that's going to be the way they're going to look at it, okay? So, I guess hold on to your seatbelts, as Oda said in the note he gave out, because it's going to get wild. Anyway, that's the video. I just wanted to talk about generally, like, the New World Order, how people are going to respond to this, and what the new bounty layout's going to be, and Yonko Commanders, and how that would all work down. So, yeah, thanks for watching. Let's just dive right into Jellyfish Facts.
Welcome to Jellyfish Facts. Jellyfish Facts.
Okay, so today we're talking about a truly terrifying denizen of the deep. We're talking about the box jellyfish, also known as the sea wasp. So this jellyfish right here, in fact, this particular species of the box jellyfish, because there's a few different species that make up the box jellies. This one is Chironex fleckeri. Okay, probably butchered that pronunciation, but Latin is not my strong point. Anyway, this is regarded by many, and the entire country of Australia, from what I understand, to be the most venomous and deadliest sea creature in the entire world, okay? So I want you to think about that. I want you to think of, like, the great white shark. Nope, more deadly than that. I want you to think about, the blue-ringed octopus. More deadlier than that, okay? This thing right here, it is responsible since 1884 for 64 human fatalities, all right? It's a pretty respectable body count, I would say, okay? So the problem with this thing is that when it stings you, it introduces a very potent venom into you in the form of darts into your body.
It depends on where you get stung. If you get stung on your hand or a finger or something, you will probably survive. But if you get stung in your chest or any area near an organ or on your neck or in your face or something, you can die from cardiac arrest from anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes. And since a lot of these fatalities occur in open ocean, when let's say you take a boat out into open ocean and you want to go diving and you get stung by one of these things, if you get stung, often a lot of divers will just die of a heart attack of cardiac arrest before they can even get back to their boat to seek any type of medical attention. You know what I mean? So that's where a lot of these fatalities come from. Now, just because there's a lot of deaths relating to them does not mean like every single time you get stung, you die. There are a lot of reported cases of people getting stung and outside of just insane amounts of pain, equivalent to like a hot red iron, like, stabbing you or that's what it's equivalent to, like a red iron brand or something. Outside of just a lot of pain, usually they survive. There's also anti-venom that can be administered. A lot of the deaths, sadly, when they do occur, they're usually children. God, it's just like a lot of people drowning and stuff with these things. Okay, so yeah, I mean, like, I would love to visit Australia. I have a lot of fans and friends that live in Australia, but it's shit like this that, like, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? It's like, if I do visit Australia, no offense to everybody that lives in Australia, I think I'm just gonna stay out of the water, okay? I'm sorry. I'm just like, oh, come on down to the beach, Matt. We could go swimming. I'm like, haha, I appreciate the thought, I really do, but just the idea that I could get stung by one of these things, no thank you. I'm going to stay on land where nothing will kill you in Australia. Except all the giant spiders they have down there. Oh, God. I do want to visit, though. I really do. There actually are beaches where there's nets in place where people can swim in the perimeter of the net, but the jellyfish can't get in. So I guess they take, measures so that people can still enjoy the natural beauty of Australia. There's also, like I said, those vinegar stations, because if you splash vinegar on a wound, on a jellyfish wound, it'll, make the pain subside a little bit there. But yeah, that's the box jelly, and one of the deadliest, if not regarded as the most deadliest, most venomous creature of the briny deep. So stay away. Yeah, I'm just gonna stay away from every jellyfish. If I see a jellyfish, I will run screaming like a girl. There's really no, like, I gotta identify this jellyfish to see if it's one of the more deadly. No, if I see a jellyfish, I'm like, no, please. It's just like, yeah, so yeah, we're learning a lot about jellyfish, aren't we, though? Yes, indeed. All right, you guys have a good one. Tekking signing out.